Damian Lillard would be out indefinitely for blood clots. For people that don't know, blood clots is extremely serious. Like, blood clots are so, unless you keep going to the doctor regularly or they're looking for it, it's very hard to see. And it could be life threatening. So I understand, Victor Wembanyama is dealing with this right now. Let's pray for a speedy recovery for both Victor Wembanyama and Damian Lillard. And it's unfortunate. I'm glad that they caught it when they did. I think it's in the right calf for Dame. And yeah, I don't know if he'll be back for this season, because that's what I say, indefinitely. And there's like 2 weeks left of the season, but Dame is out with blood clots or a blood clot, and yeah, that I pray for a speedy recovery. But I want to talk about this a little broader. I said going into this year that it was a very important year for the Milwaukee Bucks. When you get when you get a player the caliber of Damian Lillard, there are expectations. Especially when you pair that player with Giannis Antetokounmpo. You see, Giannis has been a champion. Giannis has 2 MVPs. He has a Defensive Player of the Year. He is established. And Damian Lillard is established as well, but obviously he hasn't done the same amount that Giannis has. Yes, Damian Lillard and I think Giannis both are in the NBA 75 team, but obviously Dame hasn't had the singular success that Giannis has. But when you pair those two up together, there's an expectation that you're going to be one of the best teams in basketball, because you're adding Damian Lillard to a team in the Milwaukee Bucks that has arguably one of, if not the best player in basketball. Plus, they've seen playoff success. And just like the Jets, just like any team that has high expectations that ultimately don't reach those expectations, it turns into questions. And those questions, the main question is, how did we not reach the expectations that our talent dictates that we should reach? When you look at understand that the East is weaker than the West. That's understandable. But when you look at this year's playoffs, and you can even go back to last year, obviously injuries play a huge part. And injuries played a huge part last year in the Bucks' pursuit to winning a championship. Dame was out. Giannis was out. It just wasn't. Their path wasn't there due to injury. Now, when that happens once, when your goals aren't met because of injury, at least once, you understand. There's not a lot of questions. People don't start pointing fingers because it's obvious. The caveat will always be, well, if we were healthy, we could do this, or we would have been there if we were healthy. You can lean on that. While it may or may not be true, that's always the excuse. And people understand, okay, yeah, well, who will never know. But when it happens again, and when expectations again aren't met, then those excuses start to turn into, yeah, well, when will you be healthy? You're never healthy. I understand it's been, 2 years that Dame has been with Giannis. But in those 2 years, it has gone extremely poor for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks is showing you that it takes more than just talent, and it takes more than just 2 players. I would say this, and in no metric am I saying that Drew Holiday is better than Damian Lillard. But what I am saying is, for what the Bucks need, if they had Drew Holiday over Damian Lillard, I think they'd be in a better spot. Again, I am not saying that Drew Holiday is better than Damian Lillard because I don't believe he is. But for the structure of the Milwaukee Bucks, I believe that Drew Holiday would have been a better fit and was a better fit for this team than Dame is. Which brings on why I'm extending this topic at the top of the show. I said that this is an important year for the Milwaukee Bucks because at some point, changes have to be made. And I'm looking at the scope of it all. While, yes, I'm including the injuries, I'm looking at it a little bit differently. Contrary to popular belief, basketball primes don't last as long as LeBron James's prime has. Your championship window isn't open that long in sports in general. I think one of the perfect examples from this is the Cincinnati Bengals. They thought after going to the Super Bowl, eventually losing to the Rams, but going to the Super Bowl, they thought that was going to be a constant thing. Well, we have not seen them in the Super Bowl since. In fact, the Philadelphia Eagles have been to two Super Bowls before Cincinnati's been back to one. So it's tough. And what I'm saying is, eventually you're going to have to start looking and say, all right, changes might need to be made. Because even when healthy, I think the issues that the issues that the Milwaukee Bucks have do not make them a championship caliber team. Even when healthy. Mind you, they're the 6th seed right now in the East. Detroit is over them. The Pacers are over them. The Knicks are over them. The Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they're not that far off than the 7th seed, which is the Atlanta Hawks. You have Damian Lillard. You have Giannis. And you can only muster up the 6th seed. Mind you, remember, Giannis was expressing his displeasure with this team right before they got Dame. Now, am I saying something as drastic as trade Giannis? No. When you have a player as good as Giannis, when you have a player as good as Luka, when you have a player as good as Nikola Jokic, you don't usually trade them. Especially, Giannis isn't that old. So I think you still have prime years left in Giannis. But I'm looking at it, and you're pretty much hampered if you don't make a seismic move like maybe trade Dame. Which brings me back to my first point. I hope that Damian Lillard gets healthy. I hope that we see him again this season. I hope that he's able to make a playoff run with this team this year. But I feel like we've seen the cap of this team. And that, in my opinion, is the issue. The cap is not as high as they probably thought it would be. So the last thing you want is an unhappy superstar. Like, that is the absolute last thing you want, especially in the NBA. And I don't know how many times. It's tough when you get to the championship and you're good enough to continue to do that. And you're seeing singular success. We'll be talking about MVPs. You're seeing all that, and you're just not getting to the mountaintop again. That would be frustrating. So how many times do you think you have two NBA 75 NBA team players and not make it to the championship? And even when you look, and I even said it when I was talking about the Detroit Pistons, I can see them upsetting somebody. If we started right now, the Bucks would play the Knicks. I could see them losing that. And then you get to a point where it's like, all right, this is the second year in a row that more than likely injuries will play a part in our playoff pursuit. How many times is that going to be a thing? We have a week and a half, 2 weeks left of the season. So I'm not saying anything should happen. But what I'm saying is don't be shocked if major changes are coming to this Milwaukee Bucks team if they don't reach their ultimate goal and at least get to a championship. But I don't think they will. I don't think they're better than the Cavaliers. I definitely don't think they're better than the Celtics. It's still debatable with the Knicks. I don't know. And now with this Damian Lillard injury, that makes it 10 times harder. So again, I hope for a speedy recovery, but this will be yet another. This year looks eerily similar to last year. With Damian Lillard, team didn't play defense really. They're not great at defense at all. And injuries derailed their end of year goal. So at some point it goes from being an excuse to all right, like it's starting to be the norm. And once that becomes a norm, changes have to be made. So I started this off by saying that this was a big year for the Bucks, and it's looking like it will be yet another year where they don't reach their goals. When you have a player as good as Giannis, I don't know how many times you can do that before major changes have to be made. Because you made one. You made one giving up Jrue Holiday to get Dame. That's a major change. Jrue Holiday is an integral part of championship teams. But as great as Dame is, as great as Giannis is, it hasn't worked out. If we're being realistic to this point. So. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.